particularly. Am I audible to you all? Yeah. I was not expecting this many people. What do you do on Sundays? You come to classes. Okay, I was hoping an empty class. So, anyhow, we'll discuss a little about international relations first. See, around 4 questions have been given in the paper. That is a usual trend. So, you can see here the 9th question. So, recently even Japanese Prime Minister has visited India. Did not she visit or did she visit? She visited. What is her name? So, Sane Takaichi. Sane Takaichi has visited India, and one term kept popping up in the meeting. That is the term Indo-Pacific. So, Indo-Pacific is happening. Indo-Pacific is the theater of global politics. So, what used to happen is, during 1970s, America used to follow something called Carter Doctrine. They used to follow something called Carter Doctrine. And their politics were excessively revolving around the Middle Eastern region. Now what has happened is, during the Obama era, they have announced a foreign policy called Pivot to Asia. What did they announce? They have announced a policy called as Pivot to Asia. So they are increasingly looking towards Asia. You look at the partnership of America with its democratic friends in Asia, like Australia is its friend, and Japan is its friend, okay, and also countries like South Korea and Japan are its friends. So if you look at all these countries, Taiwan is its friend. So the focus of Indo-Pacific has been on the rise. Why it has been on the rise? It has been on the rise because of the rise of China, the aggressive rise of China, and China is threatening the dominance of America, at least in the region of Asia. That is the reason why Indo-Pacific has been asked particularly. So if you look at the question, what did he ask? Indo-Pacific Partnership for Maritime Domain Awareness bridges the gap between India's Sagar and the Quad's collective Indo-Pacific strategy. So Quad has been primarily formed to counter which country? China. So Quad is a democratic alliance. What do you mean by the 4 countries? What are the 4 countries in Quad? You have USA, you have Japan, you have Australia, and you have India. So in 2007, when Shinzo Abe has given this speech called Confluence of Two Seas, he has given a speech called Confluence of Two Seas. Shinzo Abe, the former Prime Minister of Japan, it is his brainchild. So Quad has later on emerged, and if you can see on one corner you have America sharing the Pacific Ocean coast, and you have another corner, that is India sharing the Indian Ocean coast, and you have Japan and Australia. So 4 countries. So it is a democratic alliance. But what recently Quad is doing is, Quad is trying to erase that picture. So China has an illusion that China has been increasingly calling Quad as Asian NATO. It is calling and blaming Quad as Cold War mentality. So what Quad is trying to do is, Quad is intelligently trying to erase that image. Quad is saying that, even Mr. Jaishankar has told that we are not against somebody, we are up for some initiative. So what they are intelligently doing is, they are transforming the way they are functioning. For example, they have given aid. For example, during COVID-19 vaccines, they have given vaccines to the countries in the neighborhood, and also they are actively participating in HADR activities, humanitarian assistance and disaster response. So Operation Brahma has been launched, and Quad countries have helped Myanmar during last year when earthquake has struck. So what they are doing is, they are helping other countries also. They are building infrastructure in the region. Okay, they are trying to shed off this image that it is an anti-China blocking. So Quad countries have come together and they have started a security initiative called Indo-Pacific Maritime Domain Awareness. Lot of things happen in the maritime area. So in the oceans form how much? 3/4 of the world, right? Nearly 3/4 or 2/3 of the global area in the world. So oceans are vast. Previously, we never used to have this much of technology that we have today. So people are doing deep ocean mining, people are exploring the oceanic resources, people are increasingly speaking about blue economy and all these kind of things. So what China is doing in the oceans, particularly in Asia, if you look at South China Sea, in Asia what they are doing is, they are building artificial islands. And they are also increasingly, there has been increasing usage of dark shipping. Dark shipping and wells. So do you know what is dark shipping? Dark shipping is something illegitimately the vessels will be keep on traveling across the oceans. For example, if a car has something called GPS, so with GPS you can track the car. Similarly, ships have something called AIS, Automatic Identification System. AIS is a tracking mechanism, so that we can avoid accidents in the oceans. We can know which ship is traveling from one path to another. So what China does is, Chinese ships go into this dark shipping mode. They turn off this AIS mechanism. So what they increasingly wander into the other countries' waters, and they do is unregulated and illegal fishing. They exploit the fisheries resources of other countries, and also countries like Iran, countries like Russia. What they do is, there are so many sanctions upon these countries. They smuggle the oil to other countries through this dark shipping. So taking oil from these countries is prohibited, but they are sending this oil to China and other countries in the name of dark shipping. And also there are some choke points. You have seen what happens when the Strait of Hormuz has been blocked. So these are called sea lanes of communication. So there are important sea lanes of communication like Strait of Malacca and other important straits in the region. So we have to know what is happening in the oceans. That is the ultimate objective of Quad countries, which is the reason why they have started this thing called Indo-Pacific Partnership for Maritime Domain Awareness. So wherever, what kind of ships are traveling in the Pacific Ocean, and also the feasibility to track these ships in the Pacific Ocean, and also any non-state actors. Recently, near the coast of Yemen, some ships have been caught and captured by pirates. Do you know or not know? So these kind of piracy related activities, and also illegal shipping, and also illegal fishing exploitation, and all these kind of things they wanted to track. So China and many other countries are doing these kind of illegitimate activities. That is the reason why IMPDA has been brought into thing. So you have to write, first is maritime domain awareness. What does it mean? So dark shipping, first is dark ships and AIS have been switched off in the region. So for tracking that thing. And second is illegal, unreported and unregulated fishing in territorial waters of other countries. You have to write this thing. And also you have to write smuggling and trafficking. So smuggling and trafficking by non-state actors in the oceanic waters, that you have to write. And also you have to write Sagar. Sagar speaks about what? Free, open and inclusive Indo-Pacific Ocean. So Sagar also speaks about free, open and inclusive Indo-Pacific Ocean, and this initiative is also aligning with the goals of Sagar. Similarly, we have something called as blue economy and exclusive economic zones. So China is what it is doing is, through its distant water fleets, what it is doing is it is increasingly moving out of its domestic waters. So China has become an extra-regional power in the Indian Ocean and Pacific Ocean. So China is moving from its territorial waters into the neighbor country waters. What it is doing is, it is trying to map the resources in that country's waters. For example, where the oil and natural gas resources are there, where there is abundance of fishes and all these things. So it is increasingly mapping these areas. And also what it is doing is, it is surveilling the oceanic data, where the currents are going, and also the salinity in the region, and also depths of the region. So if China is doing all these kind of scientific purposes, the data can be used two purposes. It can be used for civilian purposes, it can be used for naval purposes. So in future, if they wanted to fight any war against India by coming into the Indian Ocean or with respect to other countries, they need to have a better idea about the ocean. Okay, so that is the reason why they are also engaged in espionage, that is spying. So they are collecting data and all these things. So which is the reason why IMPDA has become very, very important in the region. So, and also this Quad is also providing what? Providing so much of help to the other countries. It is building infrastructure, it is also giving HADR and all these kind of things. So you have to write these kind of points in the IMPDA, and you have to say that free, open and inclusive Indo-Pacific is the ultimate goal of Sagar, and it is aligning with our Indian governments or Indian countries' diplomatic goals in the region. So that thing you have to write. So have you understood? So these countries are increasingly cooperating. They are sharing the data. They are surveilling. Okay. So Japanese ships and Japanese Navy will share the information with India. Indian Navy will share the information. So there is so much of data exchange going on. So they are what they are doing in the Indo-Pacific region for security matters. They are surveilling. They are surveilling the region. Okay. They are ensuring that the region is transparent. There are no non-state actors in the region. There is no illegal fishing, or there is no dark ships or there are no non-state actors or pirates in the region. Okay, so multiple ships. 95% of the global trade happens through oceanic waters only. So shipping is the cheapest mode of transport. So every country is sending so much of goods and receiving so much of goods. Global trade is, shipping is the backbone of global trade. So they need to have a clear idea what is going on. So it is like they are particularly concerned about the security. So you have to write these kind of points. Have you understood? Understood? That's it. So next question is BRICS. So you can see BRICS acts as a powerful counterweight in global governance, actively amplifying the voice and influence of the global south. Explain the role of BRICS in projecting itself as alternative to other groupings. So you have three set of points you can see here. BRICS acts as a powerful counterweight to global governance. Global governance is dictated by Bretton Woods twins and Western-led institutions. For example, UN is increasingly Western-led institution. There is so much of dominance of USA and European countries. Similarly, you have WTO, World Trade Organization. Similarly, you have IMF and World Bank. These are all Western-dominated institutions that have been established after World War II. There has been increasing control of Western countries over these institutions. So global governance has been dictated by these institutions. Okay, so alternative groupings are popping up. For example, BRICS is one such initiative. SCO is one such initiative. So what countries constitute BRICS? Simply speaking, if we decode the acronym, there are countries like Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. And recently, some other countries have also joined: Somalia, Egypt, and Ethiopia, Indonesia, Iran. These kind of countries have also joined. So if you can observe the BRICS grouping, it is nothing but all of these countries are global south countries. Okay, so and these global south countries are recently developing, and they are developing very quickly, and they are making a name for themselves in the global geopolitics. India is obviously now 6th biggest trading partner, but it is soon projected to become the 3rd biggest economy in the world. China is already the 2nd biggest economy in the world. So Russia is the global reserve or the superpower with respect to gas and also energy politics. Okay, so much of crude oil and gas goes into the market from Russia. Russia is a very powerful regional hegemon of Eurasia. Okay, all of these countries. Indonesia is the most populous Muslim country in the world and also Southeast Asia's biggest economy. And Iran is a regional powerhouse of Middle East. It's a Shia dominant country. So all of these countries are very big countries. And Brazil is happening in the Latin American continent. It's the biggest economy and also the biggest country in Latin America. Okay, so all of these countries are global south countries. So previously what used to happen is during 1991 crisis, what has happened when balance of payments crisis has triggered in India, we have gone to IMF seeking help. Did they help or not? Did they help or not? They have helped. Even during 2022 economic collapse of Sri Lanka, even when Sri Lankan economy has collapsed in the year 2022, they have gone to IMF asking for some forex reserves. They have asked for some money. BOP crisis has got triggered. So whenever these countries, global south countries, go to the global institutions like IMF and these kind of entities, what do they do is they put some condition. What are those conditions called? They are called structural adjustment programs. Structural adjustment programs. So LPG reforms you have to bring, you have to increasingly privatize, and you have to open up your economy. So what they do is they try to control, they try to arm twist the economic policy of a nation. Are you able to understand? There are some conditions always coming. So to free southern countries from those kind of conditions, BRICS countries have started something called as New Development Bank. This new development bank has a reserve of how much? $100 billion. $100 billion worth of resources they have. So whenever global south countries face any issue, they can go for new development bank instead of asking IMF or World Bank. So that is one important point. And they have a contingency reserve asset, CRA, or emergency financial help. They have a reserve of how much? $100 billion. That is second thing. The third thing is they are increasingly speaking about de-dollarization. De-dollarization, they are increasingly speaking about. So in the recent times, the case of Russia has exposed how vulnerable we are to the Western-led payment gateways. For example, there is something called SWIFT mechanism. Have you heard this thing called SWIFT? So all the banks are interlinked in one unifying paying platform. For example, your friend has something called PhonePe. You also have something called PhonePe. So when you transfer the cash from your account to his account, are you physically transferring the cash? or your message is going to your bank, and that bank will communicate that message to your friend's bank. That is the same communication, right? So there is something called UPI. UPI is a platform, and you are linked by this UPI platform. So when you are blocked from UPI platform, can you send the money or receive the money? So that is what is SWIFT. SWIFT is the same kind of payment mechanism for the international banking system. Russian banks have been sanctioned and removed from this SWIFT mechanism. So Russia can't receive funds from other countries, or it can't send funds from other countries. So there is a Western dominated payment gateway or payment mechanism in the world that is called SWIFT. So to move away from the SWIFT mechanism, these countries are speaking, particularly China and Russia. The second thing is, Russia wants to move away from the dollar-related sanctions, dollar-related trade, or dollar-dominated trade. So they are increasingly speaking about de-dollarization. They are speaking about trade, doing trade in local currencies like Chinese renminbi, or Russian ruble, or Indian rupee. So recently, India and Russia also began doing trade in rupee-ruble trade. Okay, so they wanted to do the trade in local currencies only. So Russia has faced the heat of dollar-related sanctions and dollar-related restrictions. So recently what they have begun speaking about, they began speaking about de-dollarization. And during a 2024 BRICS summit, even Vladimir Putin has propounded a currency called as BRICS currency. He has proposed something called as BRICS currency for facilitating easier trade between the countries of BRICS nations. Okay, so global trade is increasingly done in dollars. Dollar is the most powerful currency. Nearly 60 to 70% of the global trade even today is being carried out in dollars. They wanted to remove themselves of the dependency from the dollar. So they wanted to move away from the dollar, and they are increasingly speaking about de-dollarization of trade. So China is increasingly using its own currency, Chinese renminbi. So countries like Brazil and many other countries are using Chinese currency for trade instead of dollar. Okay, so they don't want to become dependent economically on the dollar. Okay, that is one of the another thing. The other important factor is these countries are almost all of these countries are global south countries. So there is an element of south-south cooperation. South-south cooperation with respect to climate change, south-south cooperation with respect to economic governance and also political governance. They are increasingly speaking about reform of WTO, UN and all these things. So they are putting pressure on the Western-led institutions like UN and WTO for bringing changes. So these institutions are, for example, UN is so outdated that it still reflects the 20th century politics. So even there are countries like UK and France, which are smaller countries in comparison to India. Even they are sitting at UNSC. So there has been the domination of the former superpowers even today in UNSC. And UNSC is failing to function according to its merit or capability. So they are increasingly asking for reforms to reform the UNSC according to the changing times. What did UNSC do with respect to Iran war? Or what did it do with respect to Ukraine war? It is unable to do anything. It has become outdated. The other thing is WTO. WTO also has so many issues. It has been formed nearly 30 years back, almost 30 years now. So they are asking so many changes within WTO. There is disparity between developed and developing countries with respect to giving of subsidies and many other things. Okay, so there are many differences between countries with respect to WTO also. They are asking for changes in WTO also. So BRICS countries are also cooperating among themselves with respect to trade matters, with respect to matters of health, climate change, and also technology, AI, and all these kind of things. They are cooperating with one another. And the other thing is, BRICS has recently expanded. BRICS has recently expanded. It has got included Iran, Indonesia, UAE, countries like Ethiopia, Egypt. These kind of countries have been added. So it has become an increasingly a global south institution in the recent times. It has become a very powerful institution. But you have to write that there are also limitations within BRICS. First thing is India-China rivalry. India-China rivalry. And also BRICS has solidly failed to do much. It is still in its nascent stage. It has still begun and it is still evolving. It did not do much concrete. So it has become a talk shop. There is not much of a substantive outcome from BRICS. BRICS is definitely an alternative, but it still has much to do. That should be your conclusion. Okay. So the next question is, again, so 10 mark questions we are done with, and again he has asked two 15 mark questions. So question number 19 and question number 20. So he has asked on the diaspora. So India's diaspora acts as a living bridge, as a critical economic factor and knowledge network in transforming cultural heritage into geopolitical influence and strategic leverage worldwide. Critically examine this statement. So global diaspora, he is asking about Indian diaspora. So how many Indians are living abroad? What is the number of diaspora that is living according to the MEA data? Ministry of External Affairs. What did it say? How much of diaspora is living? How much of Indian diaspora is living abroad? According to MEA data, you have to write first that point. You have to write that around 35 million Indians are staying across the world, and India has the world's largest diaspora. India has the world's largest diaspora. You have NRIs and people of Indian origin. Okay, so you have someone called Rishi Sunak, you have someone called Kamala Harris, and these kind of people. Okay, so Ajay Banga, the CEO of World Bank, and these kind of people. So they are nothing but they are diaspora. So we have how much? 35 million Indian origin people living across the world. That is our diaspora according to the MEA. That should be your first point. And India has the largest diaspora in the world. Okay, so for example, he has asked about Indian diaspora as a living bridge. So the positives of diaspora you have to write. How diaspora have carried out our soft power. How diaspora have carried out our soft power. For example, when people go, they carry their culture, their festivals, their traditions, their attires, their cuisine, their practices and all these kind of things. Diaspora was critical in popularizing the soft power of India. For example, Indian cinema, Indian yoga. Okay, so yoga has become a very popular kind of physical activity in the world. And there is an International Day of Yoga also recognized by UN. Similarly, you have Ayurveda. Ayurveda has become increasingly popular. And also you have Indian cinema. And Indian cinema got even Oscar awards and these kind of things in the recent times. And Indian festivals. Diwali is declared as a state festival in the state of California. And chicken tikka masala has been declared as a national dish of UK. So Indian food, Indian cuisine, Indian cinema, Indian languages, and Indian culture, Indian festivals, all of them have become so much powerful across the world. So that thing, soft power you have to write. And next is the political influence, geopolitical influence, that is what he has asked, right? So geopolitical influence. So after 1990s, when Indian immigrants have gone to America, there are so many technocrats, so many engineers, scientists, and doctors, professors, students, etc. in America. They have become increasingly Indian American citizens. They have become a living bridge. Living bridge is, they are the living connection between both India and foreign countries. Rishi Sunak is a connection between UK and India. That is a living bridge. For example, Kamala Harris is a living bridge between India and America. So she is a living bridge. During Cold War, we never used to have that great of a relations with the USA. During Cold War, Pakistan used to have a close relation with the USA. But the bilateral ties have drastically changed. The bilateral degrees have taken a complete opposite turn in the Cold War era, after the Cold War era, during globalization phase, even now. And there are around 5 million people in America. And these 5 million people, out of them, there are so many people who are in Silicon Valley, and also they are sitting in the Congress of America. And this, in the Congress of America, the people who are sitting, the Indian origin people, they are called as Samosa Caucus. What are they called? They are called as Samosa Caucus. Samosa Caucus is a small group of people. So Samosa Caucus is Indian origin people. There is Black Caucus, there is Latin American Caucus. So people belonging to particular ancestry or ethnicity, they are grouped together and they are called as Samosa Caucus. And recently, Narendra Modi, last year when he went to US, he gave a speech in the American Congress and he referred to the Samosa Caucus. This Samosa Caucus and Indian diaspora has been particularly effective in lobbying in American Congress and American government. So what they have done is, they have brought this policy perception or perception of America. They have brought the change in perception of America towards India. And they were critical in repairing the ties between India and America. And you have to, must and should, 100% you have to write one point called India-US Civil Nuclear Deal 2008. That civil nuclear deal has been the path-breaking thing with respect to America and India ties. Okay, and not only with America and India ties, but also with the Western countries also, the civil nuclear deal has been very important. So our ties got normalized with many other countries. We got entered into multiple groupings, multiple global groupings also we got access to. And we signed civil nuclear deal with multiple other Western countries like France, Japan, etc., etc. Many other countries we have signed civil nuclear deal. Recently, we got uranium from Australia also. So there has been an increasing lobbying, and Indian diaspora has been critical with respect to improving the ties between different countries across the world. You have to write. You can write simply the American example. And also, what you can do is, you can also write about the economic contribution of Indian diaspora. We are the world's largest recipients of remittances. How much do we receive? How much do we receive? According to the recent data, it is around $135 billion. But you can blindly remember that India receives over $130 billion worth of remittances every year. That is an average amount of remittances. Last year, according to RBI data and UN data and many other official government data, it is around $135 billion we are receiving. So they contribute a significant amount of our forex reserve. Okay, so economic remittances have been a backbone of economies like Kerala and many other countries. They were dependent upon remittances only. So diaspora is very crucial in the contribution of remittances also. Okay, and also you have to write how this diaspora has been critical with respect to FDI, bringing FDI from different countries, and also how they are critical with respect to philanthropy. They do much of philanthropic activities in the country, and also how they are important in promotion of tourism in the country, and also how they are critical in repairing the ties with other countries and also market access with other countries. Are you able to understand? So these kind of points you have to write with respect to diaspora. Simply speaking, in the Gulf countries itself, we have around 9.7 million Indians in the Gulf countries. In Gulf countries like Dubai and UAE and Saudi Arabia, we are one of the most powerful diaspora. Okay, so Indian Hindu temples are being built in Middle East. Indian Hindu temples. For example, in Johannesburg, they have built the largest temple in the southern hemisphere in Johannesburg. So these kind of things you have to write in diaspora. You have to must and should write the diaspora data. Which countries? Indo-US civil nuclear deal. That has been the pathbreaker. You have to write soft power, Indian yoga, Indian cinema, Indian festivals, and Indian culture, and all these things popularizing how they are getting popular. And also you have to write how much amount of remittances they are contributing to India. So these kind of things you have to write. And next what you have to write is, he has also asked us to critically examine the statement. So there has been some issues with respect to diaspora also. For example, Khalistani movement that is spread across the different countries. How it has damaged the ties between India and Canada. The Khalistan movement, and it has spread to America, it has spread to Australia and many other countries. Even in UK also we have issues pertaining to Khalistani related issue. Similarly, we have our diaspora is also facing issues like anti-immigration politics, xenophobia and racism in different countries. So racism kind of attacks and xenophobia and also anti-immigration politics in the developed countries, how they are posing challenges to diaspora. And also if some crisis is triggered, so obviously we have a moral obligation for evacuation of our citizens. Isn't the government evacuating? Operation Ganga, Operation Kaveri, etc., etc. They are evacuating from Ukraine, they are evacuating from Yemen, they are evacuating people from countries like Iran. Okay, so whenever some crisis is triggered in foreign countries, obviously crisis diplomacy of India. India is forced to intervene and rescue its citizens. That is also one issue. Diaspora has become a vulnerable thing for us. Diaspora is not only an asset, it is also a vulnerability for India. Okay, so the security and safety of diaspora is important for us. That is why we are sending planes and we are evacuating them from crisis-related countries. And also migrant workers and their issues. There is something called kafala system. Have you heard this term called kafala system? So kafala system. How their passports are snatched, how they are not getting paid on a regular basis, how there has been abuse of their human rights or human rights violation, particularly in the Middle Eastern countries. So diaspora and trafficking of diaspora and also abuse of diaspora in foreign countries, human rights violation of diaspora, racism pertaining to diaspora, all these kind of things you can write. And recently also in Ireland, it is becoming popular that many Indians have got attacked in Ireland. Okay, so you can write these kind of examples. So you have to write these kind of things, and also you have to write that diaspora is nevertheless an asset, and also government must continue its initiatives like Pravasi Bharatiya Divas, OIC, OCI engagement, Overseas Citizen of India. So these kind of recognition, and also Diaspora Day, we conduct Pravasi Bharatiya Divas. So these kind of activities government must continue and try to maintain the ties with diaspora. That is the conclusion that you must write. You understood? Next is China, and China's Belt and Road Initiative has transformed South Asia from a regional space into a theater of global power competition. Analyze the strategic implications of the BRI for India's security and regional influence in South Asia. China's Belt and Road Initiative has transformed South Asia from a regional space into theater of global power competition. He has directly asked about the Chinese rise and particularly the Belt and Road Initiative. So you have to write, China is the world's second biggest economy in the world, $20 trillion worth of economy. And also, China has the world's largest forex reserves. It has a forex reserves of around $3.5 trillion it has. World's largest forex reserves. And in the year 2013, it has launched its famous Belt and Road Initiative. So what does the Belt and Road Initiative constitute? We have to write the definition, saying that it is increasingly focusing on the infrastructure, that is Chinese sponsored and Chinese developed, Chinese led infrastructure. China is building railway lines, China is building airports, China is building seaports, China is building roads and tunnels, these kind of things you have to write. And you have to jump into the answer, saying that what China is doing in the recent times. First thing is the CPEC corridor, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. It is a must and should you have to write. Saying that one security implication for India is the violation of India's security and also territorial integrity and its sovereignty. Violation of sovereignty of India and its territorial integrity. These kind of terms you have to use. Then only you will get the maximum amount of marks. This has been the official terms that has been used by the government of India while condemning the CPEC corridor during our SCO summits and elsewhere. Okay, so there is a clear violation of India's territorial integrity and sovereignty. Why? Because CPEC corridor is directly running through the POK region, Pak occupied Kashmir region, and Kashmir is an inalienable part of India. That point you have to write. So from Kashmir only this project is running. And next thing is strengthening of China-Pakistan axis. China and Pakistan have become close partners in the recent times. They began calling themselves as all-weather allies and iron brothers. Even during the recent Operation Sindoor time, Pakistan has used Chinese arms and ammunition. How China is helping Pakistan at UN, and also financially how China is helping Pakistan in the recent times. Okay, these kind of points you have to write. China is putting a technical hold on the Pak-based terrorists whenever India is trying to put sanctions on them at UNSC. So whenever India is trying to put sanctions on the Pakistan-based terrorists, China is trying to put a sanction on them, technical hold on them. I mean, hold on those Pak-based terrorists. Similarly, how China is supporting Pakistan in the Kashmir-related issue. And also, China is the largest arms market for Pakistan, or Pakistan is getting nearly 80% of its arms equipment from China in the recent times, and they are increasingly using that arms and ammunition against India. Recent example is Operation Sindoor. And also, you have to write about the string of pearls policy, how China is trying to encircle India. First is the Gwadar port in Pakistan, Hambantota port in Sri Lanka, Kyapaku port in Myanmar, Chittagong port in Bangladesh. These kind of examples you have to write. China-Myanmar economic corridor also you have to write. And China developing Chittagong port, China recently getting the rights to manage river water management of Teesta river in Bangladesh near the Siliguri corridor. So China has become a powerful extra-regional force in the Indian Ocean. That is the term you have to write for getting maximum marks. It is an extra-regional power or extra-regional force because it does not belong to this region, but still it is playing a very crucial role in the region. Similarly, China is sponsoring its debt trap diplomacy. You have to write debt trap diplomacy. Sri Lanka has gone bankrupt in the year 2022. And Sri Lanka owes nearly 40% of its forex debt to China. Similarly, increasing debts of countries like Myanmar, countries like China or Pakistan or Nepal towards China. These countries, all of them have debt. And China is the largest trading partner for all these countries. For all the countries in South Asia, China is the largest trading partner. In SAARC also, it has become an observer state. It has become an observer state, and it has launched vaccine diplomacy, Sino or China-led vaccine diplomacy during COVID-19. It is trying to give investments, it is trying to build infrastructure, it is trying to do arms-related trade, that is defense-related trade, it is trying to do much of trade also. All these things it is doing with the neighboring countries in the region. And it has effectively displaced India with respect to these kind of initiatives. It is the largest trading partner, and it is building the largest infrastructure projects in the South Asian region, and it also has become the key partner for these countries in the region. And those countries, what they are doing, when Bangladesh ties are damaged with India, when Nepal's ties are affected with India, they are playing the Chinese card. What they are doing is, if not India, they are going towards China. If not China, they are going towards India. So they are playing one card against another. So they are increasingly becoming reliant on China. Okay, so these kind of points you have to write in the answer. And also India's maritime security, you have to write India's neighborhood policy, India's Sagar and Mahasagar initiatives, how India is developing, how India is patrolling in the region. So many ships like INS Sunaina and many other ships are patrolling in the Indian Ocean. And also recently we have gifted some patrol vessels to Seychelles when Mr. Modi has gone to Seychelles. So for patrolling, these countries don't even have surveillance mechanism to surveil their territorial waters. In how India is fighting pirates in the Indian Ocean, and net security provider in the region. India is the key net security provider in the region, and it is playing a efficient role or crucial role in the HIDR related initiatives, humanitarian assistance and disaster relief. These kind of initiatives India is playing. But India is facing threat from China. China is an extra regional power, and China is also doing its surveillance in the Indian Ocean waters. So India has to be careful. That is what you have to write. And similarly, you have to write, we have launched something called Project MOSAM. We have launched something called Project MOSAM. We are also trying to build infrastructure. India has that economic gap and infrastructural gap with China. Yes, we acknowledge, but still India has some powerful things in its shield. That is, India can develop democratic institutions in these countries. India has that advantage. Okay, so institutional strengthening and democratic credential strengthening, these kind of things India can do, and India can leverage its good image in the neighborhood. China is known for its cunning and debt trap diplomatic kind of things. Many countries got damaged or many countries got affected because of Chinese politics. But India has a good image in the neighborhood. For example, countries like Afghanistan have a very good image towards Indians, because India is known for something called as Gujarat Doctrine. We don't expect anything in return. We do whatever help we want to do. So India must stick to its Gujarat Doctrine, and also strengthen democratic institutions and democratic credentials in the region. That is a point you have to write. Okay, and also Chinese rise has triggered the regional competition in South Asia and Asia. You have to write, and you have to conclude by saying that China and American politics in the Asian geopolitical theater, and also a rise of increasing apprehension of Taiwan and Japan in the region, and AUKUS deals, and also Quad, rise of groupings like Quad, all of them are nothing but the direct effects of rise of China, that is aggressive rise of China. This kind of conclusion you have to write. So he spoke about regional competition, right? So countries like groupings like AUKUS Quad have come into place, and also Japan has becoming increasingly insecure in the recent times, and also South China Sea related conflict. So these kind of things have posed a security threat to all the countries of Asia. This kind of conclusion you must write. It is not only threat for India but also all the neighboring countries. That is the reason why they are aligning, or they are forming multiple groups like AUKUS Quad and these kind of groupings. This kind of point you have to write. So that is the thing. Now we will look at Paper 1, that is society. He has asked around 6 questions pertaining to society. See. Unity and diversity remains the defining feature of Indian society despite the challenges from communalism and regionalism. Unity and diversity. India is called, what is India called? India is famously called as a subcontinent. Why is it called subcontinent? Because of the immense amount of diversity, geographical, historical, cultural, tribal, ethnic, linguistic, religious, whatnot, everything. India is the rarest country. India is the rarest country in the world. If you look at it in the terms of diversity, we have racial diversity, we have ethnic diversity, we have religious diversity, we have linguistic diversity, so we have regional diversity, we have cuisine-related diversity, we have different faiths and whatnot. Every kind of diversity we can experience in India. That is the reason why it is called a subcontinent. And what you have to begin by writing is India as a country has more diversity than Europe as a continent. So what Europe as a continent has, that diversity, it is nothing when compared to Indian diversity. So what you can write is, you can write one good statement or one good thing that highlights the Indian diversity. Or you can write some quote or something. India is a caravan of multiple travelers or something like that. And you can say how many people have come into this country, and India is like a melting pot. So many cultures and different peoples and ethnicities and religions have got melted in this country. So you can start off like that, and you can write some of the examples of unity and diversity. First is religious or civilizational diversity. See, India is the rarest country in the world. India is the rarest country in the world. Why? Because it is a birthplace of multiple religions. Sikhism is born in India. Hinduism is born in India. Okay? Buddhism and Jainism are born in India. So this is the rarest thing. So no other country has this much of distinction. And Christianity has entered India as an outside religion. Islam has entered into India as an outside religion. Parsi has entered into India as an outside religion. And all these religion and its followers are still found in India. There is no persecution or anything. That is civilizational or religious diversity. Why it is called civilizational? Buddhist civilization, Jainist civilization. So those civilizations were born in this country. That is why it is called as civilizational pluralism or civilizational origin. Okay, and religious pluralism. Many people belonging to different faiths, even in the Northeast, they follow something called animism. Even those people are living in India. You can write this point. Next is linguistic diversity in the country. According to 𝐾𝐨𝐰𝐧𝐥𝐸𝐧𝐢, there are 22 official languages in the country. 22 official languages in the country. And also, states have that luxury. States have the luxury to have a local language as their official language at the state level. In Punjab, it is Punjabi. In Telangana or Andhra, it is Telugu. In Tamil Nadu, it is Tamil alongside English. Whereas at the union level, we have something called as Hindi and English. Look at the diversity. Even though Hindi is the official language at the union level, additionally we have English. Even though both those languages are dominant at the union level, we have at the state level our own respective regional languages. Kannada in Karnataka, Malayalam in Kerala. Okay? So India has this much of diversity, linguistic diversity. Unlike countries like Sri Lanka, which had civil war with respect to language-related issues, Tamil versus Sinhala, or Indo-Pakistan split of 1971, we are successful in managing our diversity. Linguistic diversity you can write. Next is, you can write the cultural synthesis in the country. Cultural synthesis. And also, you can write Indian culture has assimilation or elements of Islam, and also we have Hindustani music and Indo-Islamic architecture, and also shared cuisines and festivals. What is a biryani? Biryani is nothing but an Islamic cuisine, right? So we have Hindustani classical music. At the same time, we have something called Taj Mahal and Qutub Minar, or Red Fort and all these things. So we have so much of shared cultural diversity in the country, and we have something called as composite culture. And you can also write secularism. Secularism is also one of the key feature. How we are managing our diversity? By being secular. All the religions in the country are equal for the government. Government does not have any proper religion. State does not have any religion. Christmas is a national holiday, or Guru Nanak's Jayanti is a national holiday. Jain-related festival is a national holiday, and also Eid or Ramzan is a national holiday. Sankranti, Makar Sankranti or Dasra is a national holiday. The state does not discriminate between one religion or the another. So how we are managing? State is secular. State has no official religion. Every religion is equal. Sarva Dharma Samabhava. Okay, how country is managing? It is managing by being secular. Next, you can write constitutional accommodation of diversity. We have something called as linguistic rights, instruction of education in mother tongue. So you can also write something called as protection of religious minorities and linguistic minorities in the country. We have fundamental rights, Article 25 to 30. And minorities also have something called as all of us also have religious freedom to follow the religion of our own choice. So Constitution itself is giving you some rights to follow the religion of your choice, to get educated in your mother tongue, and also to speak the language of your own choice or follow the faith of your own choice. These kind of examples you can write with articles. And also you can write 5th schedule and 6th schedule, how they are accommodating the tribal people and their identities. Even from Uniform Civil Code, in multiple states like Assam and elsewhere, tribals have been excluded to protect their identity, what the government is doing. We have something called as Schedule 5 and Schedule 6, exclusively trying to protect the tribal identity. Okay, and you can also write the role of national institutions. National institutions like Supreme Court, Judiciary, Election Commission, Parliament, all these kind of institutions, Indian Army, Defense Forces and all these kind of institutions. What role they are playing in cementing the unity amid this much of diversity. You can write these kind of things. Okay, and also you can write popular culture like Indian cinema, Indian sports, how much role they are playing as a unifying factor. Don't you celebrate when India wins World Cup, or don't you celebrate a good movie in the country? So that is the thing. So these are examples of unity and diversity in the country. Some of the examples. What you have to write is issues. Issues he himself has highlighted. He has highlighted something called as communalism. He has highlighted something called as regionalism. So you have to say religious polarization is happening in some pockets of the country. And you have to give some examples, 2020 Delhi protests and new communal violence of 2023. Some of the examples you can give. Communal violence related examples you can give. And also you have to also blame social media, misinformation, fake news. These kind of issues are still there in the country. You have to write communalism has become a headache, and communalism how it is hurting the nation. Okay, so communalism related things you have to write. How communalism is damaging the social fabric of the country. How communalism is breaking the social bonds. How communalism is breaking the fraternal feeling towards a fellow Indian. So communalism is nevertheless an issue. You have to write that thing. And next is politicization of religious identities. Us versus them narrative. Politicization of religious identities. And also next you have to write is regionalism and subregionalism, subnationalism. Regional issues like son of soil politics, migrants are not allowed in our territory, or issues like border disputes between two states. For example, Belgaum is a border dispute between Karnataka and Maharashtra. Kaveri water dispute. Kaveri water sharing dispute between which countries, which states? Karnataka and Tamil Nadu. And also you can write regional issues like language related issues, language related puzzles, and also attacks on migrants and these kind of things. Okay, in 2008 some attacks have happened in Maharashtra against the Bihari migrants. Okay, so what government is doing to counter these kind of challenges? First, government is increasingly celebrating National Ekta Divas, National Unity Day. It has announced on October 31st, the birthday of Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. It is trying to forge this unity among the people. Now, it has launched something called Kashi Tamil Sangamam. It has launched something called 𝐃𝐨𝐲𝐼𝐧𝐥𝐨𝐚𝐝 and also it has launched something called Donor Development of Department for the Development of Northeast Region. It has allocated a separate ministry for the regional development of Northeast Region. Or you can write the simplest example of Purvodaya initiative, how government is trying to develop the eastern part of India, Bihar, Bengal, Jharkhand, Odisha, all these kind of things. And Purvodaya initiative, best example is Bhogapuram Airport. It has been launched in the eastern part of India, right? So you can write all these kind of examples. Fact checking, PIB has something called fact check unit. So to counter communalism and how government is promoting interreligious and also interracial and also intercultural relationships also. So these kind of things, okay, Supreme Court, how it steps into the protection of rights of these people. Interfaith marriages are also being protected. Aren't they being protected? So interfaith marriages are in the larger interest of the country. They unify the nation. That is what Supreme Court has told. Don't police give the protection to interfaith couples? They give or not give? So these kind of examples you must write. Government is taking multiple initiatives and it must continue to take those initiatives. India will stay strong. India is going to stay united. You have to conclude in a very good way. Okay, these kind of challenges have always been there, but government is vigilant about it. And it is a duty of Indians also to stay awake with respect to these kind of issues. Next is, how do you understand disability substantiate the need for inclusive policy framework in India in this regard? Disability, on disability he has asked. So obviously you have to write about rights of Persons with Disabilities 2016 Act, RPWD Act. RPWD Act of 2016 and how it has tried to recognize them as a proper individuals and also individual entities with dignity and self-respect. Rather than looking at them with sympathy, government has tried to give them some rights. Government has tried to give them some help from its own initiative. It has given something like 4% of reservation for people with RPWD related issues under 2016 Act. Similarly, the government has recognized multi-dimensions of disabilities. There are multiple dimensions or multiple kinds of disabilities. It has increased its quantum of recognition from 7 kinds of disabilities to 21 kinds of disabilities. It included thalassemia and it also included cerebral palsy and these kind of disabilities that are not very popular among the common masses. Disability ante konni disabilities kaakunda, it has increased the quantum of disabilities from 7 to 21 recognized form of disabilities. And the government has also sanctioned 4% of reservation with respect to public employment. Okay, why government is doing all these things? Because there is something called Article 14. Government is obliged constitutionally to treat every person equally, irrespective of their gender and also how bodily they are there. Article 14, equality. And also Article 21, there is something called dignity. Government must enable that they lead their fundamental rights. They lead a dignified life. Okay, and also government must facilitate. And government speaks about something. Constitution speaks something about welfare state. Isn't welfare state all about looking after the marginal and also marginalized societies and also vulnerable sections? Aren't the people with disabilities vulnerable people? Okay, so government has that obligation, constitution mandated obligation to look after them. So these things you have to write. And also India is a party to the United Nations Convention on Right of Persons with Disabilities, UNCRPD. India is also a party to UNCRPD, United Nations Convention on Rights of Persons with Disabilities. Similarly, you have to write 2011 census. 2011 census have identified around 2.68 crore people with with persons with disabilities issue. So 2011 census lo entamandi chepparu 2.6 crore people are there in India with RPWD or people with disabilities kind of issues. That is 2.2% of the population. This data you have to write. And second thing is, we can't exclude them from education. Education is something that empowers them. So we have to give special facilities. That is the reason why government is trying to include them education-wise. So spread of Indian sign language facilities. If you look at the foreign countries, if you have seen or not, whenever Mr. Trump speaks, the media channel also makes a deaf and dumb kind of sign language they use. Some sign language schools have been there. Even in India, they have started. Or if you look at the instruction manual, there is some Braille language kind of, sign language kind of things and all these things. So sign language related schools, sign language related instructions. So these kind of things government is taking care. And also assistive technologies for the people who are having this kind of disability kind of issues. Assistive technologies means wheelchairs. And also assistive technologies means people that can improve their vision, or they're pertaining to the health and all these kind of devices, or walking sticks. These kind of assistive technologies and devices. Second thing is employment and economic exclusion. There are employee prejudice. Employee prejudice means people will not be willing to take them into the jobs. People will not employ the PWD people. So obviously government must intervene. Under the RPWD Act, there is 4% of reservation for them. And also government has improved their access to public spaces. For example, if you look at the bus stops or railway stations or airports, there are some wheelchairs. And also there are some ramps. Okay? And also there are separate washrooms and restrooms catering to the PWD people. And also, if there are only steps in the hospitals or schools or bus stops or railway stations, can the PWD people access them? No. That is the reason why there are some ramps in the areas. Okay? So government has launched something called as some scheme called as Sugamya Bharat Abhiyan or Accessible India Campaign. Sugamya Bharat Abhiyan or Accessible India Campaign. These kind of initiatives you have to write. And also, still there are some issues like disability intersects with gender, caste, poverty, age and rural location. Disability, the effects that you face from disability are different. A person born to an affluent family in urban area, his problems are different from a person born in the rural area. Okay, are you understanding? So similarly, a person who is having access to digital technologies and these kind of things, the issues they face is different from a person who is digitally illiterate. So similarly, a person or a woman who is facing disability kind of issues, she might also be facing something called sexual harassment and all these kind of issues. So disability interacts and intersects with gender, caste, poverty, age and rural location, and there is a much more need to do in this regard. That must be your conclusion. And also you have to write that India is a party to the UN CRPD, and giving them a dignified life is an obligation or constitutionally mandated thing for the government of India. You have to write some data scheme. RPWD Act is a must, and you have to write the data is 2011 census, how many people are there, and some schemes like Accessible India Campaign and Sugamya Bharat Abhiyan, how India is transforming the built environment for the accessibility of these people, PWD people. Okay. Next is, do you think digital technology promotes social empowerment? Explain the examples. That is the 10th question. Do you think digital technology promotes social empowerment? Explain with examples. For example, financial empowerment, Jam Trinity, Jandan, Aadhaar and mobile. Everything is digital these days. And you also have the bank accounts, Jandan bank accounts. Financial inclusion has happened. And also Jam Trinity and UPI. UPI has changed the digital economy, or it has brought in something called as digital economy, and even street vendors are using them. UPI, how it has transformed the financial interaction of people in India. Financial empowerment has happened. Next is women empowerment. Women empowerment. Some schemes of government, they are being directly credited into the women accounts. The head of the family, the head or elderly female of the family, she is receiving the benefits in the form of DBT, direct benefit transfer. There is something called PM Ujjwala Yojana, LPG cylinder. The cylinder or the LPG gas related subsidy that is being directly credited into your home's elderly female. There is women empowerment because of the technology. And also you can write something called as Me Too movement. Me Too movement also. That is also digital technology. It has highlighted how men in powerful positions in fields like sports, media and education, film industry, etc. How they are sexually abusing or harassing women. Me Too movement is one such example. How it has digitally empowered women. It has encouraged women to come out of the closet and speak for their rights. Similarly, there is something called as HEMA committee report in Kerala. So it has exposed the sexual harassment women face at the professional working spaces. That you can write. So first thing is financial empowerment of people in general, JAM Trinity and UPI payment mechanism. Second thing is women empowerment. Third thing, you can also write about the education revolution, how it has empowered people. So there is something called as PM e-Vidya, online portals, and also Diksha and Swayam, massive online open courses. So these kind of education became very much accessible, online education and all these kind of things. So access to education has improved because of technology. Technology also played a very critical role with respect to access of education. Online education has revolutionized the education industry, and it facilitated the access of education to even marginal class and also vulnerable classes. That is also one example you can write. And also empowerment of farmers. Empowerment of farmers. Farmers are getting increasingly their data from the online platforms. There is something called ENAM, National Agricultural Market. ENAM, Electronic National Agricultural Market. They are knowing in which markets across the country they can find better prices for their products. Similarly, they have something called as PM Kisan. The funds are getting directly credited into their bank accounts, PM Kisan. Similarly, they are receiving guidance and online advisory from multiple government agencies and institutions. Okay, they can just dial some online number or helpline number of the government, and they can receive the information pertaining to their soil, their crops, okay, what kind of crops they can sow, how much fertilizers they can use, everything they are getting in their mobile only. So how it has empowered farmers, you can write. And also how it has revolutionized the governance, RTA Act, right to information. And also you can also write about DigiLocker. So you can put all the certificates in a single platform, right? That is also there. And also how it has CP grams, these kind of things, e-governance, okay, electronic governance, how it has improved. So real-time tracking of governance, online dashboards. So government, for example, Chandrababu Naidu is sitting in his office and he can track what is going on in each individual district. That is real-time tracking. So dashboards are there. So how it has revolutionized the e-governance, you can write. How it has improved transparency, accountability, these kind of things. And digital technology, you can also write. Recent CJP movements and all these kind of things. So people are more rights-oriented and people are more conscious about their things. Fridays for Future, these kind of events. Anti-hijab protests in Iran. So climate change related movements. All the social movements are being built on social media these days. CJP got originated on where? It got originated on Instagram, right? As a normal page. So social movements are being organized on the digital spaces. That is nothing but empowerment. So, but you have to also write some criticism, saying that digital technology is a double-edged sword. Cyber attacks, misinformation, fake news, echo chambers, okay? And also cyber scam centers in Myanmar, how people are being trafficked into those centers, and scams, cyber scams like digital arrests, these kind of things. So how many, India has lost somewhere around 60,000 crores in the last few years, according to the National Crime Records Bureau data and Ministry of Home Affairs related data. You have to give this kind of data. How people are being conned by some digital criminals. People are sitting in some location and they are robbing off their bank accounts and all these things. Particularly the elderly people and also the children and also uneducated. There is a much larger need for the government to improve the digital literacy in the country. That must be your conclusion. So digital issues valla jarige negative things you have to write. So next is question number 18. So 3 questions. And 3 questions are 20 markers. Question number 18, is caste disappearing in urban India? Illustrate your answer with examples. So you must never speak about yes or no. So you must speak about both. You must not speak about yes or no. You must speak about yes and no. Okay? So you have to tell first of all how caste is disappearing in the urban areas. First is migration, industrialization, urbanization, westernization, modernization, modern education, and all these kind of things. What happens when people migrate from their villages to towns and cities? There is lack of social surveillance, first of all. You are not held accountable by any person. There is a guise of anonymity in the urban areas. Without you telling your caste, nobody knows, first of all. Without you telling your name, nobody knows. But in your village, everybody knows what your caste is. That is first thing. Second thing is, there is functional specialization in the urban areas. There is much emphasis on skill. There is much emphasis on merit. There is much emphasis on educational qualification rather than the hereditary roles. In a village, a carpenter's son becomes carpenter. That is hereditary passing of occupation and all these things. But you have here functional specialization. You are a data scientist specialist, or you are an AI related engineer, or you are some teacher or some doctor. In doctor also you are some ophthalmologist, or you are cardiologist, or some other. So there is some increased element of specialization with your job. So whatever you do, you have something called as functional specialization. You must specialize in the task that you are doing. There is a doctor, there is an engineer, and many other people. So that is one element. Next thing you have to write is, there is an increased sense of modernization in the society. How digitization has changed the things, and how it has contributed for the impersonal relations. Impersonal relations. What do you mean by impersonal relations? Impersonal relations is nothing personal with respect to the person you are interacting with. Your watchman, your security guard, your cab driver, your doctor, your teacher. Okay, you don't have any personal relations with them. You have some task-related thing. You interact with the person pertaining to the task only. If you go to the hospital, there is nothing called personal relation with your doctor. What do you speak? You speak about your health. You get your documents and you come out. You go to your apartment. You interact with your watchman pertaining to your security. That's all. There is no personal relations in the urban areas. That is the thing. And you have to also speak about modern education and also modernization, the westernization. Modernization has led to increase in secular values. You are not very much attached to your religion, or not very much attached to your caste and all these things. You become more and more secular rather than communal, or increasingly religious. That is one thing. Second thing is percolation of Western values owing to modern education. Okay, percolation of Western values is individualism, liberty, and also equality. So these kind of elements that you get to see in the urban centers. And also ritual decline. There is nothing called purity and pollution in the urban centers. You interact with multiple people. You use the open social spaces like public parks. You use the same roads. Okay, you stay in the same apartment. Okay, you interact with multiple people in your offices, restaurants, and etc. Rather than the strict separation of the people that we observe in the rural areas. For example, there is commensal restrictions. Commensal restrictions is you are not permitted to dine with the person of that caste. You are not permitted to touch or interact or talk with the person of that caste. So the social interaction or the commensal activities like dining together, sitting together, these kind of things you don't see in the urban areas. So there is this dilution of purity and pollution principle. The other thing is, you have to write, there has been a rise a little bit, at least a little bit rise of intercaste marriage in the urban areas. And also, you can write about the breakdown of the judge money system. What do you mean by judge money system? Judge money system is, in villages, the upper caste and lower caste share some relation. They have some functions to do. For example, service-based economy it is. So a priest does the puja and all these kind of things. Carpenter does the carpenter kind of thing. So whenever you are building your house, you have to seek to that person. And what does the upper caste person does? The upper caste person gives not in cash but in kind, food grains or some other commodities to the person who is giving that service. Every person has some allocated caste based service. A barber has his own service to provide. A washing man has his own thing to do. Okay, a blacksmith or a potter has his own job to do. That is not the case. You don't see that. That is why I have told about functional specialization. You can also write a little bit about Ambedkar, saying that Ambedkar, when Gandhi spoke about the Ram Rajya and he began glorifying the village life and all these things, Ambedkar harshly criticized Gandhi, saying that villages are dense of ignorance. What are villages? Villages are dense of ignorance. They are sinks of localism. They are consumed by casteism and communalism. And he called for increased urbanization and intercaste marriages. Urbanization was the education. Urbanization was the people can think rather than being like the conservative people that they are in the villages. So you can write a little bit of Ambedkar also. Ambedkar even supported urbanization. And also you have to write how caste has adopted and become less visible but acquired new forms. Simple example I will give you. So in Seattle city in America, they have acknowledged there is caste discrimination, and caste discrimination is a crime in the Seattle city of America. A law has been passed in California state banning caste discrimination. Only when discrimination is there, only when people highlight the problem, then only they can see that, right? Not only in India, I'm speaking about America. In America, caste issue has become acknowledgeable issue that you have to write with examples. The second thing is the presence of matrimonial sites and caste endogamy. You have Kamma matrimony, Brahmin matrimony, Kapu matrimony, all these kind of matrimony pertaining to your specific caste. So there is increased, still even today, even though intercaste marriages are there, intercaste marriages are only 5% in the country. The caste endogamy is still 95%. Still 95% to 96% of the marriages are happening within the same caste. You have to write that thing. Second is rental and housing discrimination in the urban areas. For example, a person's name is asked. Why a person's name is asked? To take a note of his caste. And also his dietary preferences are asked. So there is rental and also housing related discrimination in the urban areas. So that the landlords keep asking those questions and they don't want to give the house to that people. And also you have to highlight about the social capital, caste as a social capital. There are many caste-based networks, caste-based associations. So obviously they will get increased access to political spaces, political jobs, and also in the job market, in the private sector also there is an increased role of caste. You have so much of connections and networks. Lobbying also. You can see those kind of things also. And also presence of honor killings and caste-based discriminations. Recently an IPS has killed himself in Haryana. A person of IPS called killing himself alleging caste-based discrimination. You can write these kind of things. Okay, and you can also write simple thing like manual scavenging presence in the urban areas. The drainage and the sewage system has been outsourced to the Dalit community. Recently, government has told that around 498 people have died in the last 6 years in severages of the country. So these kind of examples you can write, saying that you have to be positive again, saying that caste can be wiped out, but it is reinventing and reoriginating. But government is very much committed owing to the constitutional values, Article 17, Article 21, Article 14, these kind of things. Caste has reduced and it will keep on reducing with the government active role. That is what you have to write. And next question is critically examine the challenges of demographic transition in contemporary India. Contemporary India is one term and demographic transition. So what is the demographic transition that is going on in the country? India is the most populous country in the world, nearly 150 crores. You can write somewhere like 145 crores. Okay, it is the most populous country in the world, and it is going through demographic transition. That is, it has high population but declining birth rates and declining death rates. So some of the challenges that India is facing, you have to write. First is youth population. India has the largest number of youth population in the world. It has somewhere like 65% of the population are still under 35 years. So youth population in the country you have to write. You have to also write that youth population have some issues like skill set, absence of proper skills, skill and labor mismatch. అర్థమైందా? జాబ్లో ఎందుకు దొరకట్లేదు? ఉన్నా కూడా ఆ స్కిల్స్ సరిపోవట్లేదు. అర్థమైందా? ఇంజనీరింగ్ కోర్సులు ఏముండాలి? ఏఐ ఉండాలి. ఇంజనీరింగ్ కోర్సులు ఏముండాలి? కొత్త స్ట్రీమ్స్ రావాలి. ఇంకా అదే ట్రెడిషనల్ సెట్ ఆఫ్ కోర్సులు పట్టుకొని ఉంటే అవ్వదు. సో సిమిలర్లీ ఇఫ్ యూ లుక్ ఎట్ సమ్ ఫారిన్ కంట్రీస్ the courses keep on changing with the changing times. That is not the case with us. So what is happening? When they get into the labor market, they are unable to find the jobs. With the education that they got, they are unable to get so there is skill mismatch. Next thing is high unemployment. According to BBC and many other reports, on an average, around 8 to 12 million Indians are graduating every year. How many people? 8 to 12 million Indians are graduating every year and entering into the labor market. But they don't have that many jobs. That is one of the problem. And next is disguised unemployment. Disguised unemployment. More people are engaged in the work where that is not needed. For example, in farm areas. 12 people are needed, but 24 people are engaged in the work. So disgraced unemployment is also one issue. And you have to also write how much we are lacking behind with respect to HDI. Our HDI is consistently about 130. Our rank is above 130. Education and health related backlogs in the country. You have to also highlight about the global hunger index, stunting and wasting in the country. Global hunger index also, we are always above 100, okay? That you have to highlight. So health and education parameters we have to take care of. We have to take care of skill related things. We have to take care of employment. Then only we can achieve something. And we have limited demographic window. Till the year 2041 only India has this luxury of younger population. Our median age is 29. You have to put all the data. You have to dump all the data. Only with dumping all the kind of data only you will get the marks. You have to write all this data. Okay, so our demographic window will expire after 2041. Why? Because the dependency ratio will keep rising. Dependency population is old age people and children. So this demographic opportunity will collapse until unless we react. So you have to write another thing called as demographic dividend or demographic disaster. Demographic dividend is when you use this population by skilling them, by providing them employment opportunities, by giving them health and education related opportunities. But demographic disaster is when you fail to do so. They'll become anti-social elements and also headache for the nation. So that you have to write demographic dividend versus demographic disaster. Next thing you have to write is regional demographic dualism. Regional demographic dualism. Demographic dualism is the country is witnessing two different and contrasting or starkly opposite demographic trends. In the southern part of India, we can see the TFR has plummeted to the developed countries levels. TFR is 1.3 in Kerala, 1.4 or 1.5 in Telangana and Andhra, and around 1.5 or 1.4 in Karnataka and Tamil Nadu. So most of these states have this TFR far below the replacement rate. But if you look at Bihar, it is 2.9, UP it is 2.7. So BMARU states you have to highlight, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh. On one region, the population is exploding. On another region, the population is imploding. So there is a bulge and also collapse. So that is one major issue. What kind of implications are we getting because of this demographic duality? We are getting implications like, first is finance commission and transfer of funds. South Indian countries, South Indian states are asking for more and more funds. But when government is allocating the funds, finance commission is allocating the funds, it is tying it to population. Second thing is delimitation issue. Delimitation bill has been stalled in the parliament. Why it has stalled? Why is there need to increase? Because the population has kept on increasing in the North Indian states, but it has collapsed in the South Indian states. So delimitation is another test. And also migration from the north to south, that is also one of the bigger issue. So interaction and also interaction related challenges. When migrants are coming here, obviously regional challenges, competition for resources, language related issues, these kind of things are happening. Next you have to write rapid population aging. Kerala is already the fastest aging state in the country. Nearly 20% of Keralites are above 60 years or above. So country is quickly aging, particularly in the South Indian states. So the country faces a challenge of becoming an aged society even before it becomes rich. Aging before becoming developed or becoming rich. If you look at America, if you look at Germany, all these kinds of developed countries, they became rich and they aged. But in India, India is becoming aged and then it is getting trapped in the middle income trap. Okay, it has not yet reached that level, but still it is running out of its youth population, working force. And also you have to write feminization of aging. In South India, this is a trend, feminization of aging. More and more females are outliving their male counterparts. Females are living for longer tenure, but they don't have any assets on their name, they don't have any income, or they don't have any stable economic belongings in their name. So they are more vulnerable, elderly women, and more of them are widowed. In Kerala, in Tamil Nadu, this is a trend. In South India, across South India, feminization of aging. More men are dying quickly, but more women are outpacing them, but they don't have any assets or properties in their name, or pensions or incomes in their name. That you have to write. Next is epidemiological transition. The increasing number of diseases like NCDs, non-communicable diseases, cardiovascular diseases, diabetes, obesity, and these kind of diseases, how quickly they are rising in the country. By 2050, India will be the Second largest country with respect to obesity. So diabetes is also a big issue. Diabetes capital of the world, India is called as. So these kind of issues are increasing. Around 50 crore population is estimated, according to the Lancet report, that they will be obese by 2050. So these kind of diseases are also increasing in the country. And 75% of India's elderly have at least one chronic disease, according to Niti Aayog. And how population is changing. Nuclearization, migration, smaller families, they are all weakening the traditional family setup in the country. And also demand for geriatric services or aged people. So infrastructure like hospitals and old age homes and all these kind of things, pensions. So all these kind of things are putting pressure on the finances of the country. And female labor force challenges. Participation of female labor force is very low in the country. For males it is 77%, for females it is 35% in the country. There is something called gender dividend. When also females also enter the market, they also work and pay the taxes. Then only country can move with the double speed. That is not happening in the country. So what is happening? In comparison to the developed countries, in comparison to the many countries, Indian females are not entering into the labor market. Why they are not entering? That is the thing. It is paltry 35%. And even if they are entering in the labor market, much of those women are engaged in Tamil Nadu rather than in India or North India. So gender dividend, if more women enter into the labor market, if more women do jobs, they will contribute more to the GDP. The economic growth will increase further, or the speed will increase. These things you have to write. So, gender, demographic transition in contemporary India and its challenges. All challenges you have to write. Old age population, demographic disaster and dividend, youth population and issues. You have to write north-south divide, regional dualism. All of these things you have to cover with the data. And government gives repeatedly all these kind of data. Okay, you have to make note of them. Next is evaluate the impact of globalization on Indian youths with reference to social, political, economic and cultural spheres. Particularly on the youth, he has asked. You have to write simply the definition of globalization, how integration is happening, how countries have opened to one another, how the world has become one village or shrinking space. Okay, you have to write a common definition. And then you can start by citing one simple fact, that is India has the world's largest youth, around 65% of the population are under 35. You can use this kind of data anywhere and elsewhere. Next, you have to write social implications of globalization. You have to write. So these people are increasingly modernized. They are tech savvy. Okay, they know they are technologically very, very adept and all these kind of things you have to write. And you have to also write westernization phenomena. Westernization is increasingly conscious of global brands. They are increasingly conscious of Western, they are exposed to Western values. That is the reason why you can see interracial, intercaste, interreligious, intercultural marriages. There has been an increase of these kind of marriages and relations. And also phenomena of dating. And also marriage and career becoming increasingly private thing. So people are making individual decisions regarding those matters. You have to write those kind of things. Career kind of goals or career kind of choices or marriage kind of choices. And nuclear families, the rise of nuclear families, that is also one of the social implications of globalization. And also you have to write delayed families, IVF technologies, and DINKs, dual income no kids phenomena, and also live-in relations. Okay, you have to highlight all these kind of things. And also feminism and also gender equality. These kind of things you have to write. And also you have to write digital socialization, how people are connected across the social spaces on the digital platforms. So revolutions, most of the Gen Z revolutions in Nepal, they have appeared on online platforms itself. Most of the digital revolutions are happening on the online platforms like Fridays for Future, Greta Thunberg's, and also anti-hijab protests in Iran. So Me Too movements, everything is going digital. So you have to write this kind of thing. And also caste erosion and reinvention. You can write this element also in social sphere. There is erosion as well as reinvention of caste. You have to write that thing also. Okay. So these kind of things you have to highlight in the social globalization, how globalization has changed the society. Next thing is economic globalization, new economic opportunities, how people got access to new economic opportunities, how youth are integrated with the global markets in cities like Gurgaon, Bengaluru or Hyderabad and elsewhere. They are working for MNCs. IT and IT related jobs. They are increasingly working for finances, global services. These kind of jobs, they got access to these kind of jobs, and these kind of jobs have increased after globalization. Startup culture, MNC culture. You have to write these kind of things. And also, you have to write the economic choices and economic spending of recent generations. There is more and more orientation towards spending, mass spending, and less orientation towards saving. They are increasingly going for credits, unlike the previous generations. So that is also one of the economic implication. And you have to also write about the dual jobs or moonlighting. Moonlighting is people are doing two jobs. In America and many Western countries, what do? They do two jobs because one income is not enough. There is some term called as moonlighting. Have you heard this term? Moonlighting. They are doing two jobs at a time. And also dual jobs phenomena. Moonlighting or dual jobs phenomena. They are doing multiple jobs or side income or side business. Okay. Similarly, there is a rise of gig economy, informal labor. Your Rapido drivers, your Uber, your delivery boys, and all this quick commerce industry. It is increasingly reliant on the gig economy. And also orange economy. Orange economy is creative economy. You can see the YouTube short films and movies and all these kind of things. So that is nothing but influencers and this kind of thing. That is nothing but orange economy. That is also one of the economic implication. And next is unequal benefits. Unequal benefits, that is, there is digital skills and digital literacy related divide. So youth born in rural area, youth born in urban area, they have a lot of gap. Youth born in Bihar, youth born in Delhi, they have so much of gap. Okay, access to digital gadgets and devices and also digital literacy, that is also the gap. And also political globalization. Political globalization, you can write how much clearly they are connected on the digital spaces. You can write recent Gen Z protests across the countries and also CJP party in India. Don't elaborate, but write only one small sentence, okay? And also, you have to write how social movements or social activism has shifted to digital arena. Nirbhaya related protests or anti-corruption movement of 2014 and 13, so Anna Hazare movement, and also RTI kind of things. So how they are getting highlighted on the spaces like internet related spaces and technical platforms. And also assertion of local identity. So religious, linguistic and regional and national identities have become increasingly popular. So when migration is taking place, rise of far right parties in some countries. Okay, so in Western countries there is rise of far right parties. Even in India, when migration and these kind of things takes place, so there is increasing relevance of language, local culture, local regional and religious feelings. These kind of things you have to write. And also you have to highlight the polarization, fake news, misinformation. Okay, and also trolling, hate speech, and all these kind of things you can write. And also how rights oriented these people are. Young people, how much rights oriented they are and how better informed they are with respect to the global happenings. Okay, and also cultural globalization. You can write mass consumerism, fashion consciousness, quick fashion, and also how it has affected the diet pattern or the food consumption. There are so many fast food chains like McDonald's and all these kind of things. Culture also, globalization, recently McDonald's has launched something called Shravan Mas kind of burgers and all these kind of things. So how globalization has becoming more and more popular. Or if beef patties are very, very popular in US, but beef has been effectively removed from India. How they are the global chains or paneer kind of pizza is nowhere found in the world except in India. So these kind of globalization patterns you have to write. And also precarious employment or the employment related uncertainty, AI related anxiety issues, and also lack of job security and lack of job protection, and also gig economy, these kind of things. Cultural globalization you can write. And also you can write fusion of languages. There is something called English, Telugu and English, and also English, these kind of fusion of languages. There is an increase of rapping, K-pop, this is nothing but fusion. So Korean and pop, that is K-pop. So these kind of fusion we are getting to see. And also Valentine's Day, New Year, these kind of things, Halloween, okay, these kind of things are becoming very, very popular. And also how fashion and lifestyle have improved. The culture of gym, fashion consciousness, fitness consciousness, okay, nutrition consciousness, fitness trackers, fitness related devices. So okay, so tracking health from minute to minute or even the minutest changes. So these kind of things. And also revival and globalization is a two-way route. Okay, so we are not only getting affected by globalization, but we are also affecting the other countries. How yoga became very popular, how Indian cinema became very, very popular. Okay, so how Indian culture has become very, very popular, how Indian Ayurveda, Indian medicine have become very, very popular. So all these kind of things, Indian music, how it began impacting the world, you have to write all these things. And also, culture-wise, marginalization of local tribal culture and local cultures, you have to write these kind of things. So English is becoming very, very dominant, that it is threatening the survival of multiple small languages. The literature, the language, the vocabulary, the dominance of the minorities, how it is eroding because of the excessive dominant globalization in the cultural sphere. ఎంతమందికి తెలుగు రాయడానికి వచ్చు రాదు కదా అది సో మెనీ ఆఫ్ యూ విల్ ఫెయిల్ ఇన్ తెలుగు ఎగ్జామ్ ఐ నో ఓకే సో దట్ ఈస్ ద థింగ్ హౌ culture wise globalization is impacting, how it is impacting your attires, your clothing style, the words you are speaking. So 2 words you speak Telugu and immediately you will switch to English. So that kind of thing. And also your thinking process, your food, so how much processed food we are eating. So all these kind of examples, how your values, your orientation, or your disconnectedness in comparison to your previous generations. So all these kind of things you have to write in the globalization. I hope you have understood. So we are done with IR and we have done with the society. Try to include maximum amount of government data, government schemes, relevant examples. So that then only you will get more and more marks. Okay. So and also focus on multiple diversified dimensions also. Okay. Thank you.